Welcome to Fuel. Fuel stands for finance, unity, empowerment, legacy. Today, join Dennis, Dr. Jackie, and Mac as they have the cryptocurrency conversation. So, can we talk about cryptocurrency, Dr. Jackie and Dennis?
I think it would be a
I
great subject. Yeah, because they say 4%. I just read the thing. I can't remember. Was it 4% or 5% of Americans? Okay, let me go the other way. If you ask 100 Americans, 95 will not know what crypto is. So I think it might be a great subject. Good move, Mr. McElwain. What do you think,
cool. So
Doctor?
Yeah,
why don't we
everyone
start with
I get a
talking?
good one in. Go
Give
ahead,
us.
Dr. Jack.
No, I was going to say I think that's great, and I remember hearing the terminology and not being sure of it. So who's going to give the definition?
Oh well,
That's Dennis's job.
I will. I guess I'll start. Um, what happens is, boy, I got a whole bunch of information on cryptocurrencies. As a matter of fact, so before we get into definitions and everything, I want to say that I've been dealing with cryptocurrencies for about 8 months now.
Okay.
Um, I actually was introduced to it, oh my gosh, 5, 6 years ago. Might have been longer. Bitcoin was $250 a share, a Bitcoin. And when the guy said $250, the only thing I thought was $250. Are you out of your mind? I'm not giving you $250 for no Bitcoin. Well, what he should have done was say, well, let me educate you on what Bitcoin is. So I think that's a great place to start, Dr. Mac. Dr. Mac,
Oh, yeah, I
because
like that. Dr. Mac.
what so what happens is, over the years, someone else called me and said, "Hey, are you interested in cryptocurrencies?" I'm like, "What's cryptocurrency?" "Well, what about Bitcoin?" And I said, "Well, how do I get into it?" He said, "Well, you can buy a part of a Bitcoin." So here's your first definition. A part of a Bitcoin is called a Satoshi, and there are 1 billion Satoshis in one Bitcoin.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, it's still over my head, but think of there's 100 pennies in a dollar. Well, there's a billion Satoshis in a Bitcoin. So
Gotcha.
I said, well, okay, how do I buy it? So he said, well, go to Cash App, put some money in there and buy Bitcoin. I'm like, is that easy? Sure. So I went in there and I bought some Bitcoin. Well, I couldn't buy a Bitcoin because now Bitcoin was no longer $250. It was now $9,000. And I took a step like, oh my gosh, $9,000 from 250? Man, I would have been a billionaire. I would have been a Bitcoinaire by now. So I said, well, okay, I have $9,000. Let me buy a Bitcoin. So I bought a whole Bitcoin. It cost me $9,000. And then the thing was, well, what do you do with it? So he said, well, what we do is we let it grow or you mine it. So mining means you got a bunch of computers and your computer goes out and finds the code and it generates satoshis until you get to a Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, this is too deep for me. I'm a dollar bill man, stock and everything. He said, well, with stock, you buy stock in a company, but you're using money and they generate money, and then the Fed prints money and it makes the value of your money go down. What? But if you buy Bitcoin and the value goes up, they're not going to make any more Bitcoin. There's only 21 million that will ever be in existence. So now we're looking at supply and demand. So if you are an economics major, you remember your supply and demand curve. If the supply is high and the demand is low, you can't sell it for what you want to sell it for. But if the demand is high and the supply is low, now you can demand more money. So what does that mean? Last time I checked, and Mac and I were checking, Bitcoin was $46,000. Last week it was $59,000 from $900,000 for me, or it could have been from 250 to 50. Oh my goodness. Will it keep going up? We don't know, but they will never make more Bitcoin while they're printing more dollars every day. So it's like more valuable than gold, maybe. So let me go back to the definition. So a Satoshi is a part of a Bitcoin. A Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. A cryptocurrency is a digital asset. So a digital asset means numbers, zeros and ones. So raise your hand who didn't know that their dollar bill turns into a 0 and a 1. Hey, somebody got to raise their hand. So when you take your dollar bill to the bank, thank you. When you take your dollar bill to the bank, they turn it into a 0 and a 1, and it's just floating around in space until you go to take your dollar bill out. Then your zeros and ones give you a piece of paper called a dollar bill. Well, basically, the Satoshis and the Bitcoins, when you sell them, they're zeros and ones, and you can change them into dollar bills. Sounds like we've been doing cryptocurrencies all our lives, and we just didn't know it. So it's not something to be afraid of, but it's something that might hold value. I think the last time I checked, gold was $1,800 an ounce. And I'm sorry, I don't keep up with gold like I used to. $1,800 is pretty good for some people. 30 years ago, I bought gold at $1,200 an ounce. I even have some that I bought at $700 an ounce. So $1,800 is pretty good, but over 30 years, it's not that good. So just imagine in 4 years, Bitcoin has gone from 250 to 50 something thousand dollars. That's amazing.
Absolutely. And I was thinking, Dennis, even as you were sharing, I've taken that plunge into the cryptocurrency, I think since September of 2020. And I think I got in the game, I believe one Bitcoin was 11,000 when I got in. So you have to understand how amazed I am that even as we're talking about, there's actually been a drop in Bitcoin from 1 week to this current week, that still from my $11,000 starting point, it's at 46. I mean, that's still incredible over just a few months. And I started to look at the whole cryptocurrency process as just being another alternative to what most people understand as far as savings and stock markets, mutual funds, CDs, things of that nature. This is just another alternative and could be a very exciting opportunity for those that are just starting off to invest, even small amounts of money with the potential to have such an incredible return on investment. That's how I kind of looked at it. Dr. Jackie, what are your thoughts?
And I've been exploring a little, but remember, I'm the educator, so I'm trying to find out more information about it so that I can have a better understanding for myself and then for others. But I did, as you just mentioned, purchase a few Bitcoins to just see the growth, to see what was happening, to kind of bank it and maybe even use that as a possibility of paying myself through Bitcoin purchases. So, but I'm very interested in the information that you were sharing, Dennis, about the Satoshi that gets you to the Bitcoin that gets you to the whole idea of cryptocurrency, because it also sounds kind of um, scary to us when we don't really understand what it is. And like when you were first approached, you thought, well, this is ridiculous. When I first heard about it about 3 or 4 years ago, I thought, what are they talking about? Bitcoin? It's like some game chip. It didn't have real meaning, real value, real use. But Dennis, did you say something at one time about credit cards that allow you to use Bitcoin, that there are other ways that you can use your Bitcoins?
Because actually, Dr. Jackie, someone asked one time, well, what am I going to do with it? Well, you can spend it, you know? So before we get to the credit card, let's keep talking about growth, because they do have Bitcoin credit cards, Bittrex, Binance, um, crypto.com. They all have Bitcoin credit cards that do all the calculations for you. But let's stay on the building side here.
Okay.
So we always talk, well, not always, we talk about insurance as a wealth protection tool, a wealth building tool. But let's add into that dollar cost averaging. And dollar cost averaging can be applied to just about anything that you're purchasing. So first, with insurance, insurance has built-in dollar cost averaging, which means that you take advantage of the ups and the downs, because most things that we do are variable. They go up, they go down. So we do that with insurance. We do that with stock, a dividend reinvestment program, or dollar cost averaging. When the price goes up real high, you get less. When the price goes down, you get more. Well, I do that with Bitcoin. I have an automatic purchase plan, and when the price goes to 59,000, I get a little. When it goes down to 40,000, I get more. So it's averaging out at a nice little average that's building up a pot, and that pot is attached to a credit card. And that's why I wanted to start from that and try to keep the flow going, because you know how many of you guys have credit cards? Well, you shouldn't. Now let me stop. Just playing. It's not so much having a credit card. Is where do the funds come from? So it's really more like a debit card more than a credit card. I really, most of the time, I stay away from credit, because anytime you use credit, somebody else is making money. Debit is money that I have. So if I buy um, one Bitcoin that's attached to a credit card, and it goes from 10,000 to 50,000, now if I need to fix my car, I can use the credit card to pay to fix my car. But I've still gained $40,000 in value. All we're doing is value exchange. Like I have friends that are really into gold, and you should have a little bit of gold in your portfolio. Don't get me wrong, you know, but I can't spend it. I really don't like carrying it around, so it's stuck somewhere in a hole in the ground, not making any money. It's only value. That's it. So I've had my gold for a long time, and it's only now, some of it is only doubling in price. Some of it's only going up $600. I'm sorry. I can't live off of $600 a year. Okay. So I want my money to be in a place where it's going to grow. So Bitcoin as a value preposition, a value possibility, has allowed me to take $9,000 and live off of it like it was $50,000, which is it going to happen all the time? No, it's a chance. Like Max said, you got to have your funds in different places, because everything doesn't go up at the same time, but also everything doesn't go down at the same time. So if my gold was attached to a credit card where I can use that value instead of selling my gold, wouldn't that be a great thing to have an asset that's always going to produce? That's why we do insurance, have an asset that's always going to produce. That's why we do. Well, I'm gonna broaden the name of Bitcoin to cryptocurrencies. 'Cause there are thousands of cryptocurrencies, thousands of digital coins. There's stable coins, which are pegged to the country of your choice. For us in the United States, we got stable coins that are pegged to the dollar, which means a dollar is a dollar. So you don't have to worry about value, but you can store your value there. You don't have to worry about the ups and downs in the market. And then we have the tokens that vary, like Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up, Bitcoin goes down. So the thing is to always have a balance in your life. You know, you don't eat all meat. You got to eat some vegetables. You got to eat some starch. You know, you got to drink some water. You got to, well, I don't drink milk, but you got to drink something. Water, tea, green tea, black tea, you know, these things that are there to help you survive and improve your life. So you got to look at your finances the same way. If you follow one path, and I tell my daughter this all the time, so please take this with a grain of salt. That job is going to wear you out. It's the only thing you do. Then one day they're going to lay you off, fire you, or make you want to quit. And you got to have something else. You know, you take your money from your job and you create these other streams: life insurance, investments, Bitcoin, stock, something. You have to start your own business. You always have to create a a food circle. You know, you got to have your starch. You got to have your protein. It can be plant-based, and you got to have, you know, other things going on in your life, your liquids. So look at your finances the same way. You don't have to be all in for anything, including, you know, their job. So I've made my daughter invest and understand investing. And this was when she was a pup. I call her a pup, but when she was a baby girl, that's all we talked about. You've got to be in this society, you got to have a band-aid, you got to have some neosporin, you got to have knee pads, you got to have a helmet. And this is how we protect ourselves from some of those unknown things by being an octopus, not being one-sided. I know I'm throwing all these metaphors. I'm sorry. I watched a video on Ice Cube, and he had some beautiful metaphors. And I'm trying to do the same thing because it was a very good teaching tool. So that's how I look at things, guys.
Fantastic. Wow, I never thought that Ice Cube would actually make it into a crypto conversation. So
Oh,
applause for you, Dennis.
those rappers are buying cryptocurrencies, you know. The ones you see on the
Yeah,
videos flashing all that money are the ones that are broke. You never see the
understood.
wealthy ones flashing cash. So there's a difference
Understood.
between wanna be rich and rich, or wanna be wealthy and wealthy. You know, I had a friend, I'm sorry, Mac, I'll get right back to you, but he drove a beat up Toyota. And every time I looked at him, I mean, we actually worked together. So I know how much he was making. But one day he invited me to his house. And I went to his house and I was like, oh my gosh, it's bigger than the Beverly Hillbillies house, you know? And I'm like, wow, wait a minute, you make the same amount of money as me. How did you get there? Brick by brick, baby. Brick by brick. Okay, Mac, I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in there.
No, no worries. No worries. I think just for our audience, I think, some of the trepidation and the mystery behind this cryptocurrency topic is just that, once again, um, we're relying on information that's coming out of social media, which could be really sketchy and really doesn't give a total background of what cryptocurrency represents. And the other part of that is just this fear of change, just this fear of doing something that's different. And I'll have to be honest with you, that's where I was at first because, I think just like Dr. Jackie said, I've known about at least the concept of it, but not really investing my time into learning more about what this all represents. And honestly, guys, I had a security in having that paper money in my wallet. I just felt all the warm and fuzzies inside when that wallet had a lot of them, you know? but when you think about it, I mean, like to Dennis's point, it's just paper. And there's been some type of value that's attached to it. And honestly, the dollar bill is not even really worth the dollar. If you know, by the time you put in things like inflation, uh, so when we take that over into this digital thing, I think that people are really hesitant when we're talking about digital coins because we've always had something that we could hold, even if
Yeah.
really we've been crypto all the time. We still had something to hold, and when you went to a retail place or a store, you could go in your wallet or your purse and you could flash that cash, and you felt like you had something. Then it got distorted with the dreaded credit card, which, well, now we're handing over a piece of plastic that not only doesn't really have a value, but actually is defeating the purpose in many ways because, as to Dennis's point, to buy on quote credit means that somebody else is automatically getting paid. So when I think about this crypto thing now I'm looking at it as like, wow, I have an opportunity to have this digital wallet that's holding my digital money, and my digital money, it's like being in that mining farm that you're talking about. Now, through that mining process, is able to generate more value, and I can determine when I want to withdraw from that value to make purchases now. And many retailers are starting to wake up and smell the coffee and are using cryptocurrency as a viable way to pay for things.
Due to the length of our conversation concerning cryptocurrency, we've decided to cut this broadcast into two parts. So please join Dennis, Dr. Jackie, and Mac again on next week as we continue our conversation on cryptocurrency. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Fueling Future Generations. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us by email at fuelingfuturegenerations2020@gmail.com. We hope that you've enjoyed our program today, and we'll see you next week.